that question is exactly what Disorientalism has been investigating. It's an open question that the food group series is trying to probe the contours of. And that's something that, that series is something that we've been working on for the past 10 years. We're still working on it. We don't have an answer. We're just trying to sort of explore and actualize, or sort of like give form to, or give shape to some of those relationships that you're talking about. This series is a 5-part series. We've completed 4 of the parts. We're slowly starting the 5th chapter. And in each of these chapters, we are looking at a food industry trade character, and each of these characters is of a different race. This comes on the heels of a series of projects that we did in which we are sort of emphasizing our Asianness, trying to disorient that Asianness. Through performance, media work, installation, and so on. Part of this came about because we noticed, just sort of anecdotally, we noticed that there was no Asian character in our work previous to this, in this sort of like hyper-Asian, hyper-gendered work that we were doing. We thought, actually, we're not doing a very good job of disorienting race if our racialization that we're performing is consistently Asian, because to be Asian, all we have to do is show up. It takes more work of solidarity and more work of sort of expanding the imagination of our racialization, and how racialization is, touches everyone, right? To project ourselves into these other characters. So, in terms of how do these things come together in this project, one way that we think about this is through labor. And specifically what we're interested in is how these characters, who in some cases were real women, who really, there were real women who worked as Aunt Jemima. There was a real woman who was the Sun-Maid girl, and there's a real there's real people, there's a real Wendy, right? Yeah. So we're interested in how, in this sort of transformation from a woman person, right, into a media figure, right, into a piece of media that circulates as media, a trademark, right? In that transition, there's a very interesting sort of slippage that's happening in kinds of labor. So, and specifically, we are looking at what these trade characters as media, the kind of labor that they perform as media, is somewhere in between affective and material labor. And they sort of lay bare, when we start to look into these characters, they lay bare this, the falsehood that these things are separate. What we're seeing with these projects that we've done is we discover how the affective labor that these media characters do, which is basically to map lost affect back onto this anonymous factory food. So if the magic ingredient is love in mom's cooking, right? Then that magic ingredient is gone when everything is produced in a factory and you get your food in a box and so forth, right? So what these characters do is they map a happy smiling face back onto this factory food. And we see that smiling face as a kind of physical material labor. So we're looking at, for example, there's a phenomenon called smile mask syndrome, which is a condition that has been diagnosed in Japan and Korea, where service workers who have to smile all day with a fake smile in order to perform this affective labor, which is physical, like they have to use their face muscles, right?
Yeah.
They develop symptoms of depression, and they can't get the smile off their face. So it's this mask, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're really interested in how there is a kind of material labor in the production of commodities and an affective labor in the production of emotion that are totally intermingled, that can't be separated with these trait characters.